Good afternoon. This is Kate Yates, and I will be filling in for Adam today on Retail Redeveloped. Adam and I have started working together about 4.5 years ago, and a lot has happened since that time. Adam is doing more exciting things every day, and there was a natural transition that just made sense where I take ownership of the tenant representation arm of our retail team. And it's just been awesome. And I've been able to work with some really cool people. And Adam was kind enough to let me crash his podcast today. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have an interest in understanding, and I don't know if it's fair to truly call it a retail shift, but it's absolutely a buzz of activity in the eastern part of Charlotte, just past Uptown and Plaza Midwood. And if you're somebody who's paying attention to local news forums, you'll notice there's this wave of established retailers migrating over this way. And it's happening pretty quickly. I know when I moved to Charlotte back in 2016, East Charlotte just had this overall kind of lackluster reputation. And now we're seeing new development, new retail, and it's happening along numerous corridors. Central Avenue, a lot going on there, Monroe Road, even Independence Boulevard, and the Oakhurst area, which is building its own identity and catching the attention of developers and people in real estate. What's also interesting is these indigenous operators, if you can call it that, like DQ at Central and Pecan, who we will hear from today, are starting to call East Charlotte home. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. And, there's coveted South End. There's new and untapped potential in the Fremont West area. So why go further east? I have a few folks that we'll be hearing from today. And first up, I've got Jessica Law here with me, owner of the Dog Salon in Plaza Midwood. Jessica, thank you so much for joining me. I know that your schedule is extremely busy right now. You're, like many others, playing role of mom, of teacher, and of business owner. So I really do appreciate your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
So Jessica, you've been extremely successful at growing this business and also maintaining that success. And watching you guys come out of COVID and not only, booked out almost immediately the first month you reopened, but then to go on and hire a number of new employees over the next few months is really just incredible. You've really, truly proven yourselves as successful operators. You could have probably chosen any market in Charlotte. Could you walk us through the thought process that led you to take a real serious look at East Charlotte?
Well, thank you very much for saying that. That's very sweet. We actually looked at a lot of properties, a lot. I was really lucky to have a very patient broker to work with. And we were actually asked to also potentially stay here just to relocate buildings. What was really interesting for me through this process was that it didn't seem like my business was being taken seriously or valued for what it is. The team over at Eastway Crossing was actually the first to express genuine interest and excitement over the idea of even having us there. Not only did they seem passionate about breathing new life into the Eastway Crossing Center, but also having tenants that can help catapult that change.
Okay, awesome. So, I follow you guys on social media. I understand what a cool brand you are because I also go there. I take my little dog in every quarter. I get him a nice clean cut. So you guys just have always done a really good job. And I felt like you adapted really well to COVID. So it was very easy for me to see what a great brand you are. So that's interesting to hear that you felt like that wasn't really out there, I guess, and more on a broad basis. So what you're saying then is that Eastway, because my next question for you was going to be, why Eastway, right? So I guess you could have chosen something in another part of Plaza, I guess, or something closer to home base. Not that Eastway is very far; it's actually pretty close. But what was it that just clicked for you there, I guess?
I mean, as you're well aware, I'm sure Plaza Midwood has become super expensive, really overpriced if you ask a small business owner like me. Plus, we have the growing traffic and parking issue that's happening. So when making this decision, I had to really take both those things in. I employ a lot of really talented people that travel a good bit to get here every day, and I wanted to take them as well as our client base into consideration. Eastway Crossing just puts us at a very centralized spot with easy highway access for really all of Charlotte.
Yeah, it's a great, I mean, you can go right down Eastway and be on the Independence in like 30 seconds. So it is it does have good access for sure. So tell me now, so in the process, where are you guys? I think you had mentioned in the first question, you were still entertaining the thought of relocating or having a second location somewhere in the Plaza development. Is that still a thing, or is it up in the air, or, where are you, I guess, in the stage of moving to this shopping center? Are you guys?
Yeah. Well, given the times, we are just going to stay with the one location for right now. And it is at Eastway. We've started construction. Really excited about the new shop. But who knows what the future holds. This business is super successful. The community is amazing in supporting us. So anything's possible.
Awesome. And so far, the feedback from customers has been positive, overall, mixed. What would you say?
Yeah, I was genuinely shocked, overwhelmingly shocked on how positive it was. I mean, every small business owner understands how hard it is just to navigate the COVID times right now. And this decision was such a huge thing to do at this time. And just the response from the community has been absolutely amazing.
Thanks, Jessica. I appreciate that insight and look forward to visiting the new shop. Now we're going to jump over to Sherman Walters, owner of the iconic Dairy Queen that was located at the corner of Central and Pecan for what feels like a century to most. Excited to see what he has to say about the move and get his take on all things East Charlotte. I'm sure it wasn't easy to hear what you guys have been. You've had that Plaza location for 70 years? Is that right?
Well, it had been there for 70 years. It had been in our family since the mid-'70s.
Yeah, wow. So I'm sure it wasn't easy to hear after that long, that you got to pick up and move. I mean, this stuff happens. It's a necessary evil of gentrification. But the rare outlier here is just the amount of time that you guys were invested in this corner of retail. And that's pretty rare. When a storefront is located somewhere that long, you start to see this return on investment, if you can call it that, in the form of strong community support and attachment even. So what was going on through your head and how did you approach this transition? Knowing you were going to have to...
It just really, quite honestly, driving around and and knowing what I know about the city and kind of with the shifts that are taking place, we had a very limited territory that we could relocate into, which basically ended, as oddly enough, it ended at Eastway Drive. So we went out to the furthest edge that you could imagine, to where we could go to find that location. And it just so happened that, we ran into a property owner, a landlord that really identified with our vision, identified with who we were, and really saw the value in bringing a, I want to call it a national brand, but it's kind of more of a hybrid because, while we were national brand, at the same time, we're just a fixture in the community as well. And so they saw too the value in bringing us to that center and kind of what it would do for that center. And I think, just being, there's a lot of value in, goals being lined up together. And I mean, even to this day, I talk to the property manager and say, hey, let's think about doing this. Let's think about doing this. And they're so on board with everything, every idea that we bring to the table. And saying, yeah, let's do it. And that's the kind of partnership, you want to look for when you're certainly looking for a place to call home for the next 20 years or 30 years or however long it's going to be.
Absolutely. I feel like there's this level of personalization when you get to, where we are. Like this is a family owned business for you guys. And so, it's personal at that point. So it's more about just numbers and spreadsheets, and there's definitely a deeper emotional connection to your, your business.
And I think and therein lied the biggest challenge for me, is that, you and I we're obviously in the same business. We do commercial real estate, and, you say, hey, it is what it is, because it's just everybody, when you're in a neighborhood where everybody wants to be there, the prices are going to drive up and you just live with the results. But to have that severe personal attachment that we did have to that corner, we saw it coming for probably 2 years. So we knew the property was being sold. We knew there'd be a new property owner. And we knew what it was going to sell for roughly. And so we saw the writing on the wall. So at least it wasn't as if it came up overnight, hey, you got to leave. We had some time to adjust to the decision. And by the time it happened, we were there already mentally, and had already kind of said, okay, let's start moving on to somewhere else. So it wasn't the gut wrenching part had already been done. It was okay, let's just move on. It is what it is. Let's do it.
Got it. So it sounds like they're, a big factor in deciding, where to go. And that being Eastway Shopping Center has a lot to do with who's the face behind that, and, their, your interaction with them. And so their
vision, obviously.
Their vision. Yeah. And how that aligns with yours, and how you guys can play off of, input from each other, and how receptive they are to your ideas, and all of that's very, very important. So I actually just spoke with the owner of Dog Salon in Plaza. Because, she will be your new neighbor over there. Yep. So I thought it'd be interesting to get both of your points of views. And so, I asked her why Eastway Shopping Center, and without going into any specific details on what motivated her to go this direction for her business, I was going to ask you what influenced your decision to choose this specific site for such a nostalgic spot, but you kind of already answered that. I mean, did you guys seek out Eastway? I mean, I know at first you said that was kind of the edge of where you wanted to be or could go. And so did you guys seek that out? Did they come to you? Like, how did that relationship start?
No, I just happened to be riding down the road one day and just scouting different parts of the territory that we were looking at. And it was really just one of those calls, like, you said, okay, I'll check into this, not really knowing at that point what was going on in that shopping center. But once we saw the center and started getting wind of, there were already some tenants in the mix there that had come from Plaza Midwood, Tommy's obviously, and of course, Penny's coffee shop there. And we just said, you know what, this could be, and we knew what was coming. We had caught wind of, obviously, the property acquisition across the street. We knew there'd be more displacement. And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall and said, this is where everybody's going to land. This is going to be the new Plaza Midwood. And obviously with the soccer team headquarters being right down the street, and also knowing what was going on there in the residential market, just knowing people that had moved to that neighborhood from Plaza Midwood, I said, gosh, I mean, if we're looking around trying to find somewhere, where are our customers at that have been with us for 20, 30 years? That's where they're at. And we just saw the parallel there that, that's where they had moved to. If they hadn't moved to that part of the east side of town, they had moved a little bit further out. So now we would actually be more convenient for them to get to us, as opposed to having to drive into town a little bit further. So there were a lot of different small things lining up that, sometimes you just say, you know what, this fits, and everything is kind of happening for a reason. It lined up for us. And, what really sealed the deal was the kind of unique vision that I think the owner of that shopping plaza has.
Yeah, and it's interesting you touch on the residential factor because, I'm not everyone, but I am that person that, purchased a house in Eastway, Sheffield Park, because we looked at stuff in Plaza Midwood and, we could buy a townhouse for what we could buy a 3-bedroom house with a fenced in yard that's in great condition and beautiful,
I know, right?
nice, quiet neighborhood. And it's just an older established neighborhood. Like, it's quiet and we're super happy here. And we can literally be on Independence in 30 seconds. And, we just take Eastway exit, I'm sorry. And we're at Eastway Shopping Center. So, we go to the Eastside local coffee shop all the time and get a zucchini muffin and a pumpkin latte. I mean, I love that place. And
they're fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's incredible because you talk about the vision that the landlord has and, also being open to ideas. And I just feel like that was definitely some sort of collaboration between them because you don't know, you don't even know what to expect when you walk in, but it's a really cool, they have this little walkway where it's outdoors and it's either open air or a skylight or something. And it's, like a little garden area, seating area outside. And it's smack dab, in between 2 inline buildings. So it's something you would never expect, but it's like a nice little surprise when you go there. And they also have a great product too. So it's just something I never would have expected to see in Eastway Shopping Center. And it's really cool to see, new unexpected things there. And
if you're new to Charlotte, and when I say new to Charlotte and say the past 15 years, none of this really makes sense. But 20 to 25 years ago, you remember when NoDOT first hit the map, and when Plaza Midwood shortly thereafter kind of started getting on everyone's radar, and we just saw the same exact thing happening here. It's a market that's kind of been depressed for a number of years, and it's primed for a resurgence. And the residential is really what drove a lot of our decision, just knowing that this is where everybody's going to be coming because the infrastructure there, the homes are what you would envision yourself buying in the old Plaza Midwood or the old NoDOT. It's the same style, it's the same feel. And, so if you've got the hindsight of being in Charlotte 20, 25 years ago, you can look at that neighborhood now and say, okay, now I know where this neighborhood is going and we want to be a part of it.
Right. So we talked about the why, right? And, I don't want to focus on the negatives, but were there any why nots? Were there any distinguishing ingredients, I guess, of other submarkets that you felt just didn't represent you or what you wanted to be moving forward?
Well, again, we were limited in where we could relocate because with the existing location, there's only a certain market beyond where that was that they would, Dairy Queen would approve the site, so to speak. And that's neither here nor there. But so we were kind of trapped as far as where we could go. And so, it wasn't like we were out looking at other markets like South End and Mint Hill or anywhere else. I mean, we wanted to be there where our customer base was, but also maybe capitalize on some of that older customer base that had moved away from Plaza Midwood. It wasn't that I guess what you would call the newer residents of Plaza Midwood didn't support us, because they did. But, we loved hearing those stories of, people would come and say, oh gosh, I had my first date here 40 years ago. The stories are endless.
Yeah.
Once a day, somebody comes up and tells you, gosh, so, but then when you start talking to them and say, okay, well, where are you at now? Oh, we're in Mint Hill now, or we're in, Concord now, or wherever that may be. But a lot of them just moved slightly further out. And we just saw it as an opportunity to capitalize on that customer base that we had always had, but also staying close enough to Plaza Midwood that we can continue to capitalize on the newer residents.
Okay, awesome. That's got to be really special, being a part of some really cool moments in people's lives that are, local and a part of the community.
Yeah, it's fun to hear some of those stories.
Thanks so much for joining us, Sherman. Up next, last but not least, client of mine and now friend Curtis Stone, owner of Swirl Bakery and Celestial Cakery, with his incredible wife, Ella, who was featured on Food Network this past year. Curtis, so glad you could join us today. We go back a little bit. We met when you all were planning to open Swirl, and really a lot of our communication revolved around the Oakhurst area. It's where you and your family lived, and you guys already owned and operated Celestial Cakery, your custom cake shop, and you wanted to have a live-work experience in the neighborhood that you call home. I remember it was really important to you to remain a part of that community and be there for your neighbors. And most of our questions, as I mentioned on this podcast up until this point, were about factors that caught the attention of and drew other retail to the east part of Charlotte. And throughout most of our conversation, we've been hammering at understanding that. But you have a unique perspective here and that you've been here. So what can you tell us about starting a business in the Oakhurst area at a time when it's really just starting to grow and start taking on its own identity?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I had some, magic 8-ball that showed me what was laid out in front of us. But I think I just got really lucky in so many different aspects. We ended up in Oakhurst by accident. We were living all the way out in Raintree, so just over there by the Arboretum, and we had always found ourselves coming, to South End, Plaza Midwood, Noda, uptown every weekend, every night to get some ice cream, get something for dinner. And we were always leaving the Arboretum, Ballantyne area to go this way. So when we were looking to leave the townhouse, and my wife had just finished college at the time, and we were looking to make some more permanent roots here together as a couple. And then, for her, she had always planned on leaving North Carolina right after college anyways and going back to live in Virginia. But then she met me. So then she stayed and we decided to buy a house together. Our first priority was, okay, well, let's get as close to what's happening as possible. And at that time I was working at Savvy & Company Real Estate. And so I kind of had some, inside look as far as what neighborhoods were kind of moving and which ones were growing. And, just being in that environment of talking with all of the real estate agents coming in and out of the building and hearing their conversations with each other and going to, real estate meetings and the classes, the update classes. I think it really helped me kind of narrow down like, oh, okay, this is really where some of these, parts of the city of Charlotte are going. So I was looking over in like Belmont, Wilmore, Villa Heights. We were looking everywhere within a 1 mile radius around downtown. And we never could figure out, we could never actually land a house that was in the price we were looking for, in the condition we were looking for, and in the area that we were looking for. Like that little triangle just never quite worked out. We were always compromising on something. And I remember there was this one house that we found over in Belmont that we really liked the price, and the house is okay. But I mean, at that time, this is, circa 8 years ago, we didn't feel comfortable living in the neighborhood unless we had like bars on the windows. And my wife was like, I don't want to live in a house where we have to put bars on the windows. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but think about the future. There's going to be a light rail coming down here one day in a decade.
Visionary. Yep.
So, it was, we had actually put down offers on several houses, before this one. And then sure enough, this house went on the market. We went and checked it out and we put an offer on it. It was accepted, at asking price. And we ended up being, I want to say it was second or third owner. The lady that we ended up buying it from grew up in this house. So her father built the house and the other 3 houses next to us for their family back in the 40s. And so she lived in this house her whole life. And then I guess she, was deep into her 60s or 70s or something, lived here with one of her sisters. Her sister passed away. So then her children decided that they wanted to move her closer to home so they could keep an eye on her. And then that's where we enter the story. So we ended up buying the house from original owners, little 1945 brick bungalow that we were able to snatch for only $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So circa 8 years ago, obviously, but we could already kind of see like, okay, Oakhurst may not be the neighborhood that everyone's got on the tip of their tongue, but man, it's got all the same components as Plaza Midwood, South End, Noda, Villa Heights, you name it. It's all there. And the more we started looking into what the city was planning for the area with the Silver Line and Monroe Road streetscape improvements, and kind of getting a feel, like getting out of your little box and talking to the neighbors and going up and down the street and realizing like, this isn't even really a transitional neighborhood. It's really just a neighborhood of people that have lived here forever. So yeah, I mean, this is ended up being a really great neighborhood to plant some roots in. So we bought the house, moved in, launched our home-based business from this house, and that went really, really good. We did like 20 wedding cakes our first year, then it was 80 wedding cakes, then 150, then 190. And all along the way, we got married in our backyard, had a kid. And by the time we were ready for the second kid, we were also kind of feeling like this house was getting a little bit too small. So we decided to move out of the house and get a brick and mortar location, which just by sheer coincidence was the exact same time that a developer finally put up a sign saying, coming soon, Oakhurst on Monroe, retail development. So the timing on everything just ended up working out really, really well. It was like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I looked around the city. I called Waverly, I called South Park, I called Blakeney. I wanted to get a feel for what the lease prices were in other parts of town, just to make sure that like I knew what I was kind of getting into. But my heart was already set on staying in this community because I knew that we really liked the comfort of being able to come and go and kind of have that work-life balance and not wasting too much time on driving around. And having the kids being able to be in the bakery was important to us. So having everything close to home was really important. So yeah, we were the first ones to sign the lease, first ones to go under construction, first ones to open, and first ones to get broken into. So we've got all the first for Oakhurst in our shopping center, and I don't think I'd have it any other way.
Yeah, and that's kind of a reoccurring trend that I'm seeing on this podcast in particular, because I spoke with Dairy Queen, the owner there, and that's the one located at Central and Pecan that's moving to Eastway Shopping Center, and that's a family-owned business. And so one of the reasons why they chose Eastway Shopping Center was because they connected with the landlord, and they connected like on a vision level, and they were speaking the same language, I guess. So when you start talking about these smaller businesses, like that stuff's really important. So never underestimate the value of just hearing somebody out. One thing that I think this podcast has done too is just solidify the fact that retail follows residential activity. He also touched on the fact that, the neighborhood is very similar to Plaza Midwood, and it's not very far at all. But it has good access, and you can get a decent, a good sized home, and, for what you could buy something much smaller in Plaza. So all of those, it seems to be this kind of perfect storm of factors that just seem to have created this natural transition for retail to just kind of move out this way. So I've spoken to you since your, grand opening, and haven't really talked to you a bunch since COVID. Even with COVID struggles, you've managed to keep kind of chugging along. Are there any challenges and in that same breath positives to being in the area that you just never would have seen coming? Yeah, I mean,
COVID, opening a new business, especially so close to COVID in a shopping center that's still under construction. I mean, for heaven's sake, half of our shopping center was supposed to have been fully leased out come December of last year. And then construction delays put them off a few months, which then led into COVID delays. So we've got some of our tenants that were supposed to have been open, 12 months ago. Mm-hmm. But last year we were trucking along just fine. And then winter came, so we kind of dipped down a little bit. And then sure enough, COVID comes around and we're like, all right, here it goes. Things are about to get really nasty. And instead our sales doubled. So then I had to hire another full-time person. And then I started noticing that, a lot of people in our direct vicinity, like, quarter mile, half mile of our shop, started finding us for the first time because everyone was, during COVID, we're not going anywhere except for on walks around the neighborhood. And on those walks around the neighborhood, people start finding out like, oh, hey, that little cupcake shop, I didn't realize you guys were open yet. So we started really getting to know a lot more of our neighbors. And that really, I think that helped really drive our in-store sales in a way that I wasn't expecting. And then all of the people stuck at home, not in our neighborhood, found us online. Because when we opened up the shop, being on Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, and Postmates, I had already done that from pretty much the opening couple months because I knew that online sales was something that we wanted to grow into. And COVID ended up being this really weird blessing in disguise where it forced people that are too far away to find us, on a leisurely neighborhood walk to get online and, wow, what's this little cupcake shop? What are these cookies? Because we invested heavily in the beginning to make sure that we had high quality, photography for all of our products, and we laid out everything. So in our brick and mortar location, we're not in a high traffic area. We're not in a fancy neighborhood. But when you put me on a digital playing field, I look just as good or better than any of our counterparts in the city. And I think that really helped level the playing field for us. And it really expand our online sales in a way that on, I think it was Postmates, we ended up increasing over 400% on our online sales.
Wow.
So some of our months that we've been open, especially during COVID, around April, May, June, we ended up posting almost the same amount online sales as we were doing in-store sales. So, online was able to double our business, and we've been seeing across the board increases both in-store and online month over month since COVID began.
And do you think you would have made that jump or dive rather into online sales? You did mention it was part of your business plan, but do you think you would have made that jump had COVID not happened?
No, I don't think so. I think people, get stuck in their ways, and until people are forced to try something new or adapt, I don't think online sales would have taken off the way that they did. You could look at, our Square report. It'll show that maybe for November of 2019, we did like $500 in online sales. And then this month we're projected to do $5,000 in online sales. There's just no way that would have been organic growth just from us, being around a little bit longer. I think that was directly related to people being forced to order food online because nobody wants to go out.
So you live here, you see the day to day. You've been here, what did you say, 10 years?
Yeah, coming up on close to 10 years now.
Yeah, so you've been there for a while. So you understand the ebb and flow more than probably anyone. What do you think is next, or what do you see coming for Oakhurst and beyond that, East Charlotte as a whole? You touched on the fact that there's still a lot that they're waiting to open, right? But they're still doing their build out, or there was some kind of holdups due to COVID. So there's a lot that that's just delayed, that's coming soon.
Yep.
But beyond that, what are your thoughts there? What do you see happening?
Man, all over the place. Our little shopping center specifically, we're about to welcome Anytime Fitness opens up in a couple of weeks. We've got a new Mexican restaurant right next door called Amimia, which is supposed to be some sort of Sabor type Latin street food concept coming in. So we're really excited about being able to eat tacos every day, tacos and cookies.
Yeah, I know how you love your empanadas, right?
You know it, right?
Your tamales.
That's it. And then Nota Yoga, we really thought we were going to lose them during COVID because I knew that, especially the yoga studios, the gyms and everything, they really took a bad hit during COVID. You can't really do that. You can't export that business on Postmates. So,
no,
we finally got word that they were still in it. So they're opening their second location. They're hoping to be open by December or January. And they're only a couple doors down from us. So we're really excited to finally be able to welcome them in. But beyond just my little, shopping center, every time there is an article about the Silver Line coming straight down Independence and connecting Matthews all the way out, to Belmont, the airport, I know that we're probably a decade out, but I just see that as, a huge growth indicator for what's happened over there on South End, South End to North End with the light rail going back and forth. It stands to reason that a lot of that potential still, is yet to come to our little neck of the woods. And then, the crown jewel of all of East Charlotte, we've got the Eastland Mall site, which is always in the news for something maybe potentially one day, sometimes gonna happen at some point. So yeah, if we could finally, nail that as well could really help tip the scale for East Charlotte. There's just a lot of great growth potential in this area. I think a lot of people end up in East Charlotte. Either A, you grew up here, so you're still here, or B, you ended up here because you couldn't afford South End and Plaza Midwood. And I'm fine with that spillover. We've got great neighbors, and watching, South Park squeeze out people, so they move to Cotswold, and then Cotswold squeezes out people, so they move to Oakhurst. That's all great. We're good with the spillover, and we can just keep on taking it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. That was really, it's really nice to have your point of view on things, especially, since you're not just a retailer that's just, has recently been attracted to the area. You're actually a resident. You've been there for a while. So it's really interesting to hear your point of view. So I appreciate that. Absolutely.
I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you. So what is going to happen? Kim is going to, our assistant's going to put together this podcast. She's just going to have to edit it for us because we did. So we interviewed Dog Salon and Dairy Queen, and then you, of course. So we're going to kind of combine this into one really cool podcast about East Charlotte with multiple points of view. So once that's all prepared and pretty and ready to go, we'll share that with you. It's may not be until like Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
Just because she's got stuff like timed out, but we'll share it with you, and feel free to share that however you'd like. But really appreciate your time, and good catching up with you. It's been a while, so
yeah, absolutely. You guys have your work cut out for you. I know if you ask me a question, I have a tendency to ramble. I'm good at talking, so
no, that's good. That's good. I love personality on this thing, so that's good. And we are actually I'm super close to Oakhurst now. So I am, we actually bought a house in July, and we're in like Sheffield Park, Eastway Park area. Yeah. So I just went the other day to pick up some breakfast at Common Market, but, Oakwald, but, there you go. I love being in this area. It's still
welcome to East Charlotte.
I know, right? Repping East Charlotte. It definitely still feels like stuff is still a little far away, but I know that will change obviously with more coming to Oakhurst at Monroe, and that all the development happening off of Idlewild, and Eastway Shopping Center has got a lot coming to it. So really excited to be here now and see all of this, and kind of be personally invested in it and interested in it. And, really excited to just kind of see how everything keeps growing.